The research station on Dracon Prime hummed with its usual sterile efficiency, but in the xenobiology wing, something unprecedented was unfolding. Leora Kane stood before the observation glass, her breath fogging the transparent barrier as she watched the 3 albino dragon hatchlings huddle together in the corner of their enclosure. Their pearl-white scales, so rare among the draconian species, seemed to glow faintly under the artificial lights. "They're dying," Dr. Vexer, the Zenthari supervisor, stated matter-of-factly, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence. The mother rejected them. Albinism is considered a genetic weakness among draconians. Without the maternal bond and her pheromonal guidance, their neural development will cease within 48 hours. Leora pressed her palm against the glass. The eldest hatchling, barely the size of a large dog, raised its head. Its eyes, pale lavender instead of the typical golden, locked onto hers. She felt something shift in her chest, a pull she couldn't explain. "There has to be something we can do," Leora insisted. "We've tried every protocol," Vexer replied, his translator implant rendering his clicking speech into standard galactic. "Synthetic pheromones, incubation adjustments, nutrient supplementation, nothing works. Draconians require emotional bonding for survival at this stage. It's a biological imperative we cannot replicate." "What about a surrogate?" Vexer's mandibles twitched in what Leora had learned was amusement. "The only draconian female in 3 systems refused them. Their kind is particular about genetic purity." Leora watched as the eldest hatchling, she'd heard the staff call him Arvin from his genetic tag, tried to warm his smaller siblings with his wings. They were failing. She could see it in their labored breathing, the dimming of their scales. "Let me try," she said quietly. The silence that followed was profound. Vexer's translator clicked uncertainly, as if struggling to process her words. "You? A human?" His tone carried the universal inflection of disbelief. "Miss Kane, you lack the biological framework entirely. No pheromones, no scales, no reptilian neural structure. It would be pointless? Maybe." Leora turned to face him, her brown eyes hard with determination. "But they're dying anyway. What's the harm in trying?" 6 hours later, Leora sat inside the enclosure, her back against the curved wall. The station's night cycle had dimmed the lights, casting long shadows across the sterile space. She'd shed, her lab coat wearing only a simple shirt and pants, trying to minimize any chemical sense that might distress the hatchlings. At first they kept their distance, watching her with those strange lavender eyes. But Arvin, the eldest, was curious. He took one tentative step toward her, then another. His nostrils flared, sampling her scent. Leora remained perfectly still, hardly daring to breathe. Then Arvin did something that would later be studied by xenobiologists across the galaxy. He chirped. It was a soft, questioning sound, nothing like the proud roars of adult draconians. It was the sound of a child asking a question. "Are you safe? Will you hurt me? Can you help?" Leora extended her hand slowly, palm up. "Hey there," she whispered. "I'm not your mama, but I'm here. I'm here and I'm not leaving." Arvin sniffed her hand, his warm breath tickling her skin. Then, in a movement that seemed to surprise even himself, he pressed his snout against her palm. The contact sent a jolt through Leora. Not electrical, but emotional. She felt his fear, his hunger, his desperate loneliness. "Oh, sweetheart," she breathed, her voice cracking. "You've been so scared, haven't you?" As if her words had broken. A dam. Arvin climbed into her lap, his sharp claws carefully sheathed. Within moments, his 2 siblings followed, creating a pile of pale scales and trembling wings in her arms. They were cold. Too cold. Draconians were supposed to be warm-blooded, but these hatchlings felt like they were carved from ice. Leora wrapped her arms around them as best she could, pulling them close to her chest. Humans ran warmer than most species in the galaxy, a quirk of their homeworld's variable climate. She'd never thought it would matter. "I've got you," she murmured, rocking slightly. "All 3 of you. You're not alone anymore." Arvin burrowed deeper against her, his head tucked under her chin. She felt his heartbeat, rapid and fluttering, begin to slow to a healthier rhythm. The smaller ones followed suit, their breathing evening out. She began to hum. It was an old lullaby from Earth, something her grandmother had sung to her. The melody was simple, wordless, but it filled the silence with something the clinical environment had lacked: warmth. Humanity. Hours passed. The research team watched through the observation glass in stunned silence as the hatchling's vital signs stabilized, then improved. Dr. Vexer ran the scans 3 times, certain his equipment was malfunctioning. Impossible, he kept muttering. Their neural pathways are forming. Synaptic connections are strengthening. But she's not draconian. She has nothing they need. But he was wrong. Leora had exactly what they needed: the uniquely human capacity for cross-species empathy, the stubborn refusal to let the helpless suffer, and the warmth of a species that had evolved to care fiercely and irrationally for things that weren't even their own. As dawn broke over Dracon Prime, Arvin opened his eyes and looked up at Leora. His scales had taken on a subtle iridescent sheen, a sign of health. He chirped again, but this time it wasn't a question. It was recognition. It was trust. It was love. Leora smiled through her tears, pressing a kiss to his small head. "Good morning, brave one," she whispered. In the observation room, Dr. Vexer made a note in his report. Human subject has successfully bonded with draconian hatchlings through means yet unexplained by current xenobiological models. Recommend further study into human emotional transference capabilities. But Leora didn't care about the science. She only cared about the 3 small lives curled against her heart. Finally warm. Finally safe. Finally home. Humanity had once again done the impossible. They had loved something into living,